Hello Key Stage 1, this is day 5 of your writing unit on Little Red Riding Hood. In today's lesson you are going to be exploring speech marks in a text, and this is the final lesson of this week's piece of work. We are continuing the learning next week where we are going to be writing sentences with the speech and finishing off writing the story. So for today's lesson we are exploring speech marks in a text, and that is the text of Little Red Riding Hood. The first one is I can identify speech marks in a text, so you can see where that punctuation is being used. I can also identify where a character is talking, and I can even write my own sentence using speech marks. We are going to start off with our retrieval practice, and our retrieval practice for today is writing words and spelling them correctly with sound buttons. These words are words that come up in the story quite a lot, so you will need to be able to spell them. So what you're going to do, you're going to need to write the words down and put the sound buttons on each word. I'll give you the example for the first two. So the first word is t, I, time. The second word is g, l, girl. What you need to do is write down the rest of the words that are on the board with the sound buttons, and when you're ready, go on the next slide for the answers. So let's see if we got the answers right. Again, I'll go over the first two. So the first one was t, I, time. Then we have g, l, girl. H, d, hood. N, ear, near. Food, food. V, it, visit. W, a, way. I, n, I, d, inside. K, a, came. W, I, with. T, e, teeth. K, e, scream. And then there was this super tricky one over here, so well done if you got this one right. It's n, I, t, g, ow, nightgown. Well done if you managed to put the sound buttons on all of those green words. Your next retrieval practice of today is using the text map to retell the story of Little Red Riding Hood. I know it's something that you have practiced quite a lot already, but it's so important that you know the story so that you can write it later on next week. So you can use some actions to help you if you would like, but you need to pause the video when it goes onto each part of the text map and tell your grown-up what the text map says. Well done for remembering the story so well. You should be super proud of yourself. So, the first activity is thinking about when characters are talking in a text. So that's when speech is used, when a character is talking. So what you need to do for this activity, you need to listen really carefully and you need to think about when the character is talking. If you would like, you can print off the waggle, and then on the waggle you can underline any time you think a character is talking. I will read it and you need to show your best listening. Once upon a time, there was a girl called Little Red Riding Hood. She lived with her mother in a village near a forest. One day, Little Red Riding Hood went to visit her grandmother. She took a basket of food with her. On her way, Little Red Riding Hood met a wolf. "Hello," said the wolf. "Where are you going?" "I am going to visit my grandmother, who lives in the forest," explained Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf ran to grandmother's house. He went inside, put on a nightgown, and got into her bed. Later, Little Red Riding Hood came to the house. She knocked on the door, then went inside. Little Red Riding Hood went over to grandmother's bed. "Granny, what big ears you have," she said. "All the better to hear you with," answered the wolf. "Oh, Granny, what big eyes you have," said Little Red Riding Hood. "All the better to see you with," replied the wolf. "Oh, Granny, what big teeth you have," said Little Red Riding Hood. "All the better to eat you with," said the wolf. "Help!" shouted Little Red Riding Hood, as she realized that there was a wolf in her grandmother's bed. She ran out of the house. A woodcutter was nearby. He heard Little Red Riding Hood scream and ran to the house. The woodcutter hit the wolf over the head. The wolf ran away, and Little Red Riding Hood never saw him again. Really good listening, everyone. Super proud of that. And did you manage to work out when there were different characters talking? So now we've got another retrieval because we are going to be looking at punctuation today. So on the slide there are 3 different types of punctuation. Can you remember what each one is called? Pause the video because the answers will be on the next slide. See if you got the answers correct. So this piece of punctuation is a full stop, this is an exclamation mark, and this is a question mark. Well done if you got those correct. We are looking at a new piece of punctuation. So have a little look at the punctuation that I've got on the board and have a think. Have you seen this piece of punctuation before? And do you know what it is called? Have a think and tell your grown-ups. These pieces of punctuation are called speech marks, or if you're looking for the posh word, they are called inverted commas. And speech marks, or inverted commas, show when a character is talking in the text. And we've got some examples over here. They show when someone is speaking. "I am called Mary," she said. That's what Mary is saying. She says, "I am called Mary." Notice how what she says is put in the speech marks. They go around what the character is saying. Another example is, "What time is it?" John asked. This is what John is saying, and what he says is put in between the speech marks. So your activity that you're going to be doing is you're going to be looking at the waggle and you're going to be showing where the speech marks are. So you might have already identified where a character is talking when I was going through the waggle earlier. And what we're going to do, we're going to use a line to show where the character is talking and then a circle to show where the speech marks are. I will do the first sentence for you to help. So the first one says, "Hello," said the wolf. "Where are you going?" And we know that this is the wolf talking. I'm going to circle the speech marks that I can see. But they're not the only ones. If I look at the rest of the sentence, I can see some more speech marks over here and over here. And that's where my speech marks are, or that's where my inverted commas are. Now, I need to underline where the character is talking. And remember, the speech goes in between the speech marks. So the wolf says, "Hello," and the wolf says, "Where are you going?" So this is showing you where the speech marks are and what the character is saying. Now it's your turn. So you're going to read through the rest of the waggle. When you see some speech marks, you need to draw a circle around them to show where those speech marks are, where those inverted commas are, and then you need to start underlining what the character says. You need to go through the rest of the waggle to try and find all the speech in the story. Pause the video, and when you're ready, I will go through the answers each slide at a time. Let's look at the answers then. So, for the first sentence, I've just got what I had on the previous slide, and that was "hello" in speech marks and "where are you going" in speech marks, and that's what the wolf said. Next, we have some speech marks here, and then it's a long time before we see the speech marks again and they turn up here. So that's quite a lot that is said, and let's see what it says. "I am going to visit my grandmother who lives in the forest." And that is all said by Little Red Riding Hood. And then for the rest of the paragraph, there is no more speech. So for that orange paragraph of writing, that is all the speech in that one. In the green paragraph, having a little look through this one, there is no speech at all. So in the green paragraph, you shouldn't have anything circled or anything underlined. In this paragraph, we can see quite a lot of speech. And we start with speech marks here. And then this character finishes talking here. And this character says, "Oh, Granny, what big ears you have." And that's Little Red Riding Hood talking there. When the wolf replies, the speech starts here. So when a new character is talking, it is written on a new line. So the wolf replies, "All the better to hear you with." And that's what the wolf says. Then Little Red Riding Hood speaks again, and it is on a new line. And Little Red Riding Hood says, "Oh, Granny, what big eyes you have." Then the wolf replies again. Again, it's a new speaker, so it's a new line. And the wolf says, "All the better to see you with." After that, Little Red Riding Hood speaks again, so it starts on a new line. And Little Red Riding Hood says, "Oh, Granny, what big teeth you have." And then finally, we're having the wolf reply on the bottom line. So again, new speaker, new line. And the wolf says, all the better to eat you with. In the purple paragraph, so in our final paragraph, we don't have much speech at all. We just have one bit of speech, and that's where the speech marks are. That's where the inverted commas are. And it's Little Red Riding Hood, and she says, help. And that is all the speech found in your Waggle text. So here we have an optional activity. So that's if you really want to challenge yourself, you can give it a go. So your optional activity is to write a short conversation between Little Red Riding Hood and the woodcutter, because in our story they don't actually say anything to each other, but they could have a conversation, they could talk to each other. If you choose to do the optional activity, you need to make sure you are starting your sentences with a capital letter. You're using your neatest cursive handwriting. You use finger spaces between the words. You end your sentences with a full stop, or if it's a question mark, or if it's an exclamation sentence, an exclamation mark. Then you need to make sure that you read your sentence and check that it's okay. If you want to, you can tick or fix your work to make sure it is correct. In addition, you need to be using your speech marks. So remember that your speech marks go around what the character has said. And we've got those examples from earlier over here if you need to use them to help you. So you can pause the video now if you want to give the activity a go and challenge yourself to writing with speech marks. Our plenary for today then is making sure we know when speech has been used correctly in a sentence. So I have 3 sentences down here. I have A, B and C. And all of the sentences say, help, shouted Little Red Riding Hood. And you need to look carefully at where the speech marks or where the inverted commas have been placed and check that they have been placed around the character's speech. Pause the video now before we go on to the answers. And here is the answer. So the answer you should have got is sentence B. We've got help, shouted Little Red Riding Hood. Little Red Riding Hood is saying the word help. So the word help has been put in the speech marks, in the inverted commas. That is the only place in the sentence where those pieces of punctuation need to go. So let's reflect on your learning for today. So today's lesson, you were exploring speech marks in a text. The first one is I can identify speech marks in a text. You could find the pieces of punctuation and put the circle around where you found them. I can also identify where a character is talking, and that is where you underlined what the character said. And some of you would have even challenged yourself to writing your own sentences using speech marks. So well done if you challenged yourself to writing your own sentences today. Well done, Key Stage 1. That is week 1 complete. You should be really proud of all the amazing work you have done this week. Next week, we are going to be continuing our learning of Little Red Riding Hood. So on the first day, we're going to be writing sentences that include speech. So you have to try really hard to remember what you've learnt today because you will be using that skill on Monday. Then we are going to be looking at using apostrophes for possession. After that, we will be editing your writing by rereading and checking it. Then we will edit your writing by improving your vocabulary choices. And finally, you will publish your writing so that you will have an amazing story of Little Red Riding Hood. I hope you all have a lovely weekend and I look forward to working with you on Monday.